private school tuition fees are about to go up by 20%. A Labour government is going to put VAT on those fees, which means lots of people are not going to be able to afford them. Private schools are going to need to get smarter at attracting students, both in the UK and probably from overseas. Today, we're going to talk about how they're going to do that. Good morning, Rich.
Wow. Good morning. Serious? Because it's a service and they're a business.
Yeah, it's something to do with charity status. They have some kind of charity status. And if the Labour government get in the UK here, they're going to take that status away. I could be butchering this, but essentially it's going to mean that they have to charge VAT, which passed on to consumers, which is just parents. It's going to put those prices up 20%, which, you know, even a conservatively priced private prep school might be 10, outside of London might be 10 or 12,000 a year. So you're looking at 2,000-3,000 on top of those fees, which is definitely going to affect a certain portion of their clients. So,
I mean, that is massive. I mean, 20% can't be sniffed at. That is really big.
The route we do want to go down is
how to generate
private
revenue.
Schools are going to need to get more savvy at getting parents in the door with their children. And there's one way to do that is completely overlooked, that is low-hanging fruit, and they have to, as a matter of urgency, do this. And that is, and I'm sorry to hark always back to this, but that is digital marketing, specifically SEO, political, private schools.
Political SEO.
Political SEO. Political SEO
There's plenty of that out there.
One of the best ways to get traffic. Just talk about something controversial in the US.
Yeah.
Private schools, right? So there is traffic for fairly bottom of funnel terms, you know, private school Fulham, prep school Fulham, you know, insert area. And there's thousands of people searching for those things. There is no schools are bothering to optimize their websites for that traffic. All of the companies that are optimizing are these pretty crappy list sites that are just like, you know, here's a list of private schools in London. And the search engines 100% will rank actual, like we would call them vendors, but like the school. And occasionally a school will pop in there that's got some vague clue what they're doing. And schools need to be looking at this and going, I need to take my website and I need to optimize it. Firstly, for like private school Fulham, that's number one. Secondly, there's these like secondary searches that I think would be quite good. So think about your demographic, and then you can create content around what they would care about. So equestrian, nurseries, golf courses, just create some really nice localized content around those things. Again, all pretty low difficulty. And then just bring visitors to your site that way. And I think you're going to do demand capture, which is people that already give a shit about private schools and is searching. I also think you're going to do a fair chunk of demand generation. There's a percentage of pupils parents that will consider private school, but they just need a little nudge in the right direction. Let's get them in. Let's get them a free tour. Tell them about golf courses. They see your school, massive pop-up, come for a free tour of our school, and just capture that demand. These people are pretty good at selling it. And when you start walking around them, you're like, you know what, these places are actually pretty good. So these schools need to think about SEO. The ROI is huge. One pupil could be worth 200,000 a year, 300,000, over their lifetime. So you don't need to spend tons on this, £1,000 or £2,000 a month. You would be pumping SEO wise. You'd have so many people coming through the door, you wouldn't know what to do with them.
So I have a little bit of experience with this. So my mum was a teacher, independent for the last 10 years of her 40-year career. So she worked at a school called St Albans in Rottingdean near Brighton, and Rodine before that. It got sold off for land in the end because they found that Rottingdean, because it's the southeast, it was worth more than they could ever generate from the school. But they had a lovely kind of community feel for it. Interestingly, she worked in a school in central Brighton, which was Brighton and Hove High School for girls. and it's like it's down to like tiny numbers, completely lost out to Brighton College and various other local schools. Brighton College 10 years ago turned it on its head. They rocked up and said, we're the best independent school in the country. Didn't have any grounding for it, I don't think. But the way that they spoke, the way they were in the community, the way they opened up this school in Bangkok, it just profile and brand of Brighton College just shot through the roof. I've got friends now who've bought a flat. They're from Brighton originally, but they live in Fulham. I live in Balham. He's bought a flat in Brighton because he's determined to send his two boys to Brighton College. And he's going to have that flat for the weekends and everything else like that. Brighton College, genuinely, 10 years ago, nothing. But it's all a brand play. All of their marketing just absolutely kicked up a level. And they started to treat it truly like a business. I've just Googled them now, and they're opening up a prep school in Kensington in South London, or West London. I mean, absolute machine. So whoever got hold of that when that head came in was a superb marketer. Most schools don't have that. Most schools do not. They will offer a very similar type of education, but it all, like you say, it all comes down to the caliber of the kids. It comes down to the perception of what the experience your child is going to get at that school. So the content you should be driving out about what the experience is like is absolutely critical. And that's the thing that parents seem to care about.
I drove past a private school locally, and they had a big banner outside the school, and it said, optimal class sizes. Can we not just do you think parents give a shit about optimal class sizes? They want small class sizes. Put fucking small. Small class sizes is what people want. So that is the level of marketing capability in that sector. That sector is worth billions. I think if you're looking at setting up a marketing agency, which I know a lot of people do, it's a great way to kind of segue into, from having a job into running your own business. It's a really good way of doing that. Private schools is, I just think, a great market. They're going to be a pain to sell to, but they're about to get absolutely tonked by this VAT thing. So that's 18 months out when they have an election. No world where that doesn't happen, I think, because I think the Labour government probably get in and boom. I don't know how long it takes for that to come in. It's going to come in. I'm actually, as I'm talking about this, I'm convincing myself that we should be doing this.
I mean, I think you could. I mean, you're not going to make significant revenue off each school. I don't. Well, maybe you are. I don't know.
No, I agree. It's $1,000 to $3,000 a month ticket price, probably. Depends. Like you said, that you can do all the branding. You can do. It's not just the kind of SEO. There's lots of stuff to do.
There's loads to do. I mean, I just look at all the successful schools because I taught internationally. That's all independent, right? So I've seen the ones in Bangkok. I was in there for 3 years, and I worked at the oldest one, which ended up shutting down. We had 3 kids in like A-level when I left. Yeah, completely tanked. I think they tanked it deliberately to sell the land. But some of the schools, like Brighton College came in, Harrow are there, Shrewsbury are there, all of these top schools. But the best one was one called NIST, which was called New International School. It was in the centre of Bangkok. But it's the way it projected its brand was just light years above these other schools. And I don't necessarily think the education was wildly better, but the teacher salaries that they could afford to pay because of the charges, they were £1 million baht a year for a kid, which is £20,000 back then. That's a lot of money in Bangkok, and I think ours was like 450,000, so we were under half the price.
Yeah, it's
just, I totally agree with you. I think it's a space that schools are going to need a lot of support in. There is tons of room, but it's totally a brand play. Because as soon as you get the money coming in, you can employ the better teachers. I'm sure there are teachers out there that work for less, but there's shelves. There's definitely like shelves of quality teachers. And I think the more money you've got, the better experiences you can provide. And it just snowballs, right? But it all starts with that. It all starts with that high-paying student.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like it. Brand, demand capture, website, funnel, lead nurturing. I think you could put a package together that was like, $3,000 to $4,000 a month that you can just plug and play into these schools that would get them to an elite level of marketing pretty quickly. And then you can easily justify that spend. If that spend's only £30,000 or £40,000 a year, that's only a couple of extra students. And I think you're going to be generating way more extra students than that if you did this even half well. So there we go.
Yeah, you need to be spending you got to be spending 5 to 10% of your revenue on business development and growth, right? So if you're not, if you're turning over millions a year and you think that is an issue, then that goes to show you where you need to be, where you should be rethinking things. Because Brighton College, like I said, they were everywhere out of nowhere. Yeah. And it's transformed them in 10 years.
That's actually a really nice. You could benchmark that. You could say, look, in business, this is what they spend. This is what you get for it. This is what the top schools do. And you could kind of benchmark the things that they do. I think the selling to schools was always a nightmare. But I just think if you hang it off of this VAT increase, which is almost certainly coming, even if for some reason it doesn't happen because Labour don't win, it's still still in the post at some point. They're going to win an election eventually, and you need to be ahead of this because they're going to do it, no doubt.
So we should close this. We should close this episode off with just reading the strap line from what Brighton College returns as their description. It says Brighton College independent school of the decade.
Total bullshit. But just sounds good. Works. Love it.
It works. All right, Doug. Thanks very much. Appreciate that. It was a good one. Cheers, bub. Bye now.